of Life has told me that you will find all the answers at the end of your journey. Magister, do you still remember Dora's instructions? I see it.
Your journey will bring answers to everything. I'll leave it in your hands.
Hello? Are you zoning out? Hey, chin up. You've definitely got this.
Magister! Magister!
Settle in, it's time for lore. Tasi, Dreamhopper. Tasi, sometimes known as the Fairy of Dreams, is responsible for the dreams of all people. She possesses the power to give both pleasant, restful dreams and the most terrifying nightmares. Most believe that Tasi originated from a sort of dream realm, where she existed as a being without form, constituted by her energy alone. The driving force in her life was to calm the sufferers of nightmares, going every night to visit the dreams of countless thousands. Since the barred gate has become unsealed, however, she has been finding it increasingly harder to quell the people's nightmares. She fought night after night against the encroaching evil that terrorized Esperia's innocence, but it was to no avail. She was slowly and surely losing her fight against it. A tide of nightmares was swirling up around the sleeping. She had done all that she could do in the dream realm. Any further action would need to happen in the realm of the firmly physical, and for that, she would need a vessel. She sent out the call to action for anyone that could help her achieve this feat. A treant called Ulmus answered her call. He went to the Spring of Life, as she'd asked. Ulmus is one of the eldest and wisest treants in the forest. He is well known for his calm demeanor, but for a short time, there seemed to be something amiss. Something was perturbing him. He began to have a recurring nightmare that lasted for months. In this dream, he was unable to move, while some sort of defiling evil permeated his surroundings, moving closer and closer to him with each passing night. He could still feel the sting of the putrid thing's scent when awakening. While seeking help and answers, Ulmus discovered that the other treants were suffering the same affliction. Another night, and drowsiness overcomes Ulmus as he struggles to stay awake. He knows he's fighting a losing battle. He knows the nightmare is waiting to envelop him yet again. This time, in his nightmare, the soil is completely spoiled and a wretched black claw floats in front of his eyes, menacing him from the darkness. Ulmus can only flinch as he finds himself locked in place. He watches the claw with a helpless sort of dread as it inches ever closer, when suddenly the scene is disrupted by a flash of blue light. The claw cracks and retracts, shriveling in the wake of the light. He didn't fall into another nightmare again for many nights. The blue mist would appear in his dreams, soothing him into a restful night. However, As time passed, the blue mist became fleeting, and the evil decay once again rooted itself in his slumber. While once again confronting his nightmare, Ulmus heard an unfamiliar voice. "Someone, please." He could hear it, but he could find no owner of this voice. Far in the distance it seemed, and yet so close. "Someone, please, help me. Someone, help." A waning, feminine voice could be heard coming out of the blue mist. "Who goes there? How can I help?" Ulmus responded. "My name is Tasi. I am the Fairy of Dreams. A strong evil has reared its ugly head once again. I was able to prevent its perversion for a short time, but it grows strong. I am no longer able to purge the darkness from dreams. Please, go to the spring of life and call forth the summoning of my spirit. Please, help me." Ulmus awoke and sprung immediately into action, making his way toward the spring of life, deep within the forest. It was said that Dura created the miraculous spring as a parting gift for the Wilders. Ulmus was meticulous in performing the ritual, and he had brought good offerings. From the corner of his eye, he saw a brilliant, luminous flower bud appear beside the spring. From within its brightness, Ulmus was able to discern a beautiful face. It was then that he heard a familiar voice. "Thank you, Ulmus." The bud burst open, and from within it, she stood upright. Tasi stretched, unfolding beautiful wings. They gently flicked like a butterfly's. "We finally meet in your realm. Thank you for calling forth my spirit. Thank you for gifting me with such a beautiful body." She smiled radiantly, illuminating the surrounding dark forest. Since Tasi's arrival into the physical realm, she has stuck by Ulmus's side, fighting for the forest against the encroaching darkness that so doggedly clawed its way into these green lands. The southern woods had already succumbed to the evil, and the war had come to their doorstep. The first battle went surprisingly well for the defenders, but they had only won the day, not the war. Moreover, the victory they had achieved that day was just a minor setback for demonic invaders, swarming in hordes. In the fighting, Ulmus sustained a slight injury. He couldn't have known how serious it actually was. It wasn't until a few days later that Ulmus began to realize the gravity of his situation. The enemy must have used some kind of concoction on their blades, some unsavory union of poison and curse. A rot had set in, and he became entangled and locked down by the rotting ground. Not even the spring of life seemed able to undo this blight. "Wake up, Ulmus! Wake up!" Tasi yelled frantically as she sat by his side, fearing that he was already too far gone. She considered simply putting the old treant out of his misery, but even this small kindness was made impossible by the corruption. The same rot that rooted Ulmus to the ground and weakened his mental state also strengthened his physical resistance. She used the last of her energy that remained after the fighting to enter the dreams of the great elder Arden, calling for him to help. She then evaporated into a haze of blue mist as she entered the rotting heart of Ulmus to seek him out in his dream and see what still remained of him. Tasi found Ulmus's weakened spirit wandering the darkness of his dream. Though frightened, a coherent Ulmus still lived on the inside. Tasi had found her friend, but after tapping all of her energy to enter the dream, she faced the same problem as he. She would also be trapped in this shell, unable to communicate with the outside world. A prisoner, trapped in a rotten cell for eternity. Luckily for the two of them, Arden heeded Tasi's dream message. After he had exorcised the blight from Ulmus, the treant searched day and night in search of his beloved Tasi. "Where are you, Tasi? Tasi?" Tears streamed down Ulmus's face. It was then he noticed a small blue bud growing on one of his branches. A familiar color. Ulmus felt elated. It didn't bloom immediately as it had before. In fact, it didn't seem to grow much at all. But every day he tended to it, making sure it was well protected from the elements. He waited countless days and nights to see that face again. Ulmus! Ulmus! Tasi? Tasi! Tasi, are... Thank you, Ulmus, she murmured. Welcome back, Tasi, Ulmus softly replied. They had been reunited once more.
If you could choose, would you pick a wondrous dream or a spine-chilling nightmare?
The patient sat before me asked. Meeting his bloodshot gaze, it was clear his question was asked in all seriousness. But simply saying a wondrous dream, of course, was becoming increasingly harder to say. Laughing at himself with a mocking chortle, he began to tell me of his experience.
I live in a far-out backwater village right at the cusp of the Empire. It doesn't have much to do with the rest of the world, but there's enough to get by. The villagers live a simple life. It's tough, but not so tough that you can't handle it. At least, that was the case until a few months ago. Folks in the village started having nightmares. Lots of nightmares. Farmers would see their crops fail and families starve. Merchants would see bandits pillaging and raiding. The military veterans who'd served with the frontier regiment would see blood-soaked maulers cascading over the border and slaughtering the townsfolk. In short, they dreamed of all the things they feared most, you see, the things they didn't want to confront. In the beginning, folk were a little anxious about it, but found comfort in reassuring themselves it was mere coincidence. But then, as time went on, the number of folks having nightmares grew, and so did our anxiety, you see. The whole village was enshrouded in a sense of unease. The village head sent for help from the temple, but the village was so out of the way that getting back there and back and there and back would take the best part of 3 months. There was nothing for it. We had to wait. Now, things carried on this way for about a week. The entire village plagued by nightmares. Everyone was on edge, their dark-ringed eyes heavy with sleep deprivation, you see. They were afraid to sleep, but too exhausted to avoid passing out. Now, unable to fend off the exhaustion, they would eventually pass out, only to be reawakened by these horrific nightmares. One night, I slipped into yet another nightmare. However, something about this one was different. A little pink-haired girl with butterfly wings appeared, fluttering all around, and a shower of magical glittering dust falling through the air wherever she flew. Whatever the dust covered, the nightmare beneath it seemed to dissolve, as if it were snow in the sun. Ezizh, I will not permit you foul people's dreams any longer, she yelled out. Opposite her was some sort of demonic creature. It rose from the nightmare that the dust had not yet touched. Its arms had been tied up with vines, and an ominous black mist permeated the air around it.
Go ahead, Tasi. Try your best.
That was the moment it dawned on me. This demonic thing, a hypogean called Ezizh, was responsible for the villagers' nightmares. Just before I lost consciousness, the two had begun to face off against one another. When I reawoke, the villagers were thrilled, all talking about how Tasi and how she had appeared in their dreams. Even though the nightmares hadn't gone entirely, there was now a ray of hope for us. Several days continued in much the same way, as Tasi appeared in everyone's dreams and fought fiercely with the hypogean. The decisive battle happened in my dream, a wondrous dream and a spine-chilling nightmare, mingling and alternating. Sometimes I would find myself enveloped in an ocean of flowers. Other times, a sea of flames. Sorry. It still seems so real. The endless back and forth between the dream and the nightmare was seemingly going to swallow me up. And yet, I was fully prepared to be swallowed. On the brink of losing my grip on the world and everything in it, Tasi fluttered her wings vigorously. Glittering dust gushed forth, shattering the stalemate between dream and nightmare. the nightmare was totally dispelled, and the hypogean fled. The dust spread all around, weaving the most extraordinary dream I'd yet ever seen in all my years. Where once stood desolate, barren wastes, now grew never-wilting blossoms, rivers of fine wine, and a fruitful field of golden wheat, with a tree growing up, towering over all. No poverty, no famine, no pestilence to be seen. I saw the village head embrace his long-deceased wife. I saw the military veteran return to the barracks in perfect health. And I saw the merchant smile as he opened a business in Savannah, greeted by an endless flow of customers. The very next day, no one roused from their sleep until after midday. One by one, they stepped out into the sunshine, teary-eyed with emotion, as last night's incredible dreams still lingered. Having awoken from the dream, life could gradually be restored to normal, or so I thought. But truly, seeing the impoverished land and run-down village after being immersed in such a beautiful dream, it left me with a feeling of disappointment and emptiness in my heart. 3 days later, the villagers erected a statue of Tasi, giving up whatever food they had by way of offerings. And I told them, don't do it. You need it. You need the food. But they said she could have it. Passing by it, everyone bowed with reverence, perhaps hoping that Tasi would return and bring everyone another wonderful dream. A week passed, and Tasi did not appear. The food left in offering was reclaimed, and the villagers no longer bowed to the statue. After 1 week, mind you, just one. Another few days went by, and still Tasi did not appear. The village folks' hopes turned to disappointment, and then unbridled rage. Some even began to curse Tasi under their breath. Gosh darn fairy. Condemning her selfishness and neglect. Now, I've no idea who cast the first stone, but one night, someone did. By the time the sun rose, the statue had been smashed to bits and pieces. The villagers' desire to return to that beautiful dream didn't wane with the passing of time. Every glance at the barren land and the shabby houses swelled their desire to return to their dreams. Eventually, some folks just shut their doors and stayed in bed, hoping beyond hope that the beautiful dream would return. But it never did. Probably shouldn't have thrown rocks at the girl, you know. The wheat crops became overgrown with rampant weeds, uncared for by the people. A constant reminder of the difference between dream and reality. The worse reality became, the more we wanted to go back to that beautiful dream. The village folk became increasingly irritable, their desires never being met, and the feeling of dissatisfaction welling up. Trivial matters were enough to spark brawls. Then someone threw the first punch, and the second, and the third. The whole damn village descended into chaos. Dazed It seemed like I could see an eerie dark mist emanating from everybody. Like vines it climbed and wrapped itself around them. Spreading, condensing into a foggy cloud that enshrouded the entire village. Suddenly, a huge ghastly mouth appeared from within a void, swallowing all the dark mist.
Nightmares give rise to fear. Beautiful dreams give rise to indulgence.
The Hypogean's words rang true.
The will of mortals is truly fragile and easily broken, but the power of its desire is beyond compare.
The Hypogean's silhouette emerged. It had broken free of its bonds. The huge figure of a beast materializing into something more solid. Tentacles twisting and writhed from its back, reaching out, blotting out the sky. Ah! It was then I understood. It had never left us. It had allowed itself to be defeated, to make us feel the relief of Tasi's aid, and to feed on our negativity when it was gone. Our negativity had become the sustenance for it to break free and descend into our reality.
So, how did you escape? I couldn't help asking after hearing this.
Tasi,
The patient replied, smiling bitterly.
I suppose the Hypogean wasn't quite free of the dream realm yet. Because when Tasi charged in, both vanished from sight.
Vanished.
Who knows where they went? I don't. Maybe they're still in the dream world fighting.
The patient paused a moment before continuing.
I really want to see Tasi again, to thank her in person.
Although the patient's expression conveyed a sense of genuine sincerity, I couldn't help but catch a flash of madness in his bloodshot eyes. Although the patient's expression conveyed a sense of genuine sincerity, I couldn't help but catch a flash of madness in his bloodshot eyes.
Woof!
So that was a good one. Much else from me between now and then. I'm sure I'll stream at some point. Yeah, there they are. Finally. Yoicks. Wow, Kappa looks great. All right. Awesome. Not even a single yellow. Incredible. And no, and like a terrible amount of blues too. Oh, we can't have that. All right, bub, I'm ready. See ya, everybody. I'll see you soon. And hey, tell your friends to come to the stream in the future. Make it a party. Huh? Gotta work on my advertising. Stay safe, Esperians. Have a good rest of your night, friends.